MGTV USA. Οι δραστηριότητες της ελληνοαμερικανικής κοινότητας με βίντεο και πλήρες ρεπορτάζ.
Καλησπέρα, εκπροσωπώ το Ελληνοαμερικάνικο Επιμελητήριο από την Αθήνα. Είμαστε εδώ αυτή την περίοδο για να εισάγουμε ελληνικές εταιρείες που παράγουν κατασκευαστικά υλικά στην αγορά της Νέας Υόρκης. Μετά από μια εξαιρετική συνεργασία που έχουμε με το Ελληνοαμερικανικό Επιμελητήριο της Νέας Υόρκης, που μας βοήθησε και πάρα πολύ σήμερα στο σημερινό conference, αλλά και κανονίζοντας 70 συναντήσεις αμερικάνικων και ελληνικών εταιριών, πιστεύω ότι μπορούμε να έχουμε και εξαιρετικά αποτελέσματα. Έχουν έρθει μαζί μας εταιρείες που έχουν μεγάλη εμπειρία στις κατασκευές, έχουν μεγάλη εμπειρία σε κατασκευαστικά υλικά και νομίζω ότι είναι μια τέλεια, μια εξαιρετική ευκαιρία να εισάγουμε ελληνικές επιχειρήσεις και ελληνική επιχειρηματικότητα στην μεγάλη αμερικανική αγορά. Αυτό είναι ένα σημείο εισόδου για μας. Έχουμε έρθει εδώ με ένα μεγάλο opportunity, το οποίο έχουμε κάθε διάθεση, ευκαιρία και αποφασιστικότητα να φέρουμε εις πέρας. Προσωπούμε την Ελλάδα, ευχαριστούμε θερμώς τον κύριο Κάτσο και το Ελληνοαμερικάνικο Επιμελητήριο για την ευκαιρία και την οργάνωση. Έχουμε εξαιρετική συνεργασία μαζί τους και ελπίζω ότι θα μπορέσουμε πράγματι να δώσουμε ανάσα στη χώρα, στην πατρίδα που σήμερα δοκιμάζεται και χρειάζεται τη βοήθεια όλων για να μπορέσει να ανταπεξέλθει και να βγει από την κρίσιμη στιγμή. Θερμά ευχαριστώ σε όλους.
Good evening. I'm Faith Hope Consolo, Chairman of Douglas Elliman Real Estate. It's faith@consolo.com or faith@douglaselliman.com. And I'm here at the Chamber to speak this evening along with my co-panelist about development in New York City and if they want across the country. My specialty is retail. Retail's my detail. I do everything commercial, anything to do with shopping, stores, and offices. And we're going to talk a lot about design today. And I understand that we have a group here from Greece, so we're very excited about that. We're excited on hearing what's going on across the ocean. We hear so many things that I feel this is a great opportunity.
Jay Badami, President and CEO of Tishman Construction. I've been working with Lou Katsos for many years. We've been doing this event for probably the past 4 or 5 years to talk about the industry, construction, how it benefits both union and non-union workers, what's there, what's available for the industry. We're basically in a period now of full employment, so it's all good for the construction trade, so hopefully we can get the message out to the members of this chamber. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. For those who haven't been to our events before, this is the way we typically operate, by the way. We like to have fun here. These are all friends. And we'll describe in a second the nature of the panel, which is basically unscripted. And I'm glad for that, by the way. I don't know what I'm going to ask. I don't know what they're going to respond to. They may ask me questions for all I know. But again, thank you for coming. This is an event that we have every few months. To basically just chat. In my case, I'm chatting with the panel. In your case, you're exchanging business cards and doing business. The whole nature is just to find out what's going on in the industry, what's going on in the development industry, what's going on in the construction industry, and certainly what's going on in the design industry. So, again, unscripted panel. I'd like to thank the sponsors who helped put this event together. As you all know, this event, we never charge, and it's basically the sponsors who are picking up the cost for the event. And at the same time, the sponsors are also donating money really that goes to great causes. So in the past, on these type of events, we always support something. We've supported, for example, recently with the money that we've accumulated to go to the Jewish Museum of Athens. And last week we had a series of events regarding the Jewish Museum, and we're very happy to support them. This particular event, the first $5,000 that is raised is going to go towards helping some people who are having problems currently in Greece. So everything that we do basically is for those type of things. And again, the sponsors do that, and the sponsors always keep this event at no cost to anyone. I'd like to introduce the president of the Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce, Nancy Papaioannou, to say a few words. Nancy.
Thank you very much, Lou. Thank you very much all for being here today supporting one of the most successful committees of our chamber. The Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce was founded in 1947 for the purpose of promoting and strengthening the economic and cultural ties between the United States and Greece. But not only that, we try to create a networking program, a forum that all of you, friends, members, supporters, can find a way to exchange ideas, meet each other, and make the world that we live better. Thank you very much for all, and I would like at this point to congratulate Lou Katsos for putting together this event and many more to come. Thank you very much all.
Okay, so this event is being done by the Development, Design, and Construction Committee that I chair, and I'm also the Executive Vice President of the Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce. I'm so fortunate that this event is unscripted because basically I've been tied up all week with a lot of different things, in particular with hosting a delegation that came from Greece, from the largest chamber in Greece, which is the American Hellenic Chamber of Commerce. So there's 10 or 12 different companies that came to the U.S. Number one, to be at this particular event, which they've heard a lot about. But the other thing, for us to help them do one-on-one business meetings. And I can say this particular week, they asked only before they came that we set up 3 business-to-business one-on-one meetings, each one of the delegates that came here. And I can say that we set up actually 8 or 9 meetings for each one of the delegates. And we've had a total from Tuesday to today of 70 to 80 different meetings, one-on-one business meetings. I see that we have the ambassador of the Hellenic Republic here sitting in the front. So, Consul General, if you can say a couple of words.
I only wanted to congratulate the Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce and Lou Katsos, of course, who always puts very successful events. He manages to create a lot of commotion around the events that he does organize, and they are always very successful. I would like also to welcome the American Hellenic Chamber of Commerce in Athens, who are here to explore the possibilities with the members for doing business. We can only wish them the best of success. Wish the best success for the evening and the panelists. Thank you.
If we can, rather than myself basically introduce who you are, if you can, starting with Marty. Just, and in particular, by the way, not from many members of the audience because they're from the U.S., but in particular for the other members who came from overseas, just to talk a little bit about yourself and your particular companies. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Martin Piazzolla. I head up development for Avalon Bay here in New York. Avalon Bay is a publicly traded REIT. It's the second largest residential REIT in the country, about $25 billion worth of capitalization. We've been in the New York City market since the late 90s, where we were the first developer of a rental building in Long Island City on the waterfront. And we've since built over 2,500 units. We have 4 different projects already online right now, including our most recent one that we're in lease up over on West Chelsea on West 28th Street. To our most recent acquisition over in the Upper West Side on West 61st Street.
Thank you, Mark.
Since Lou was my boss many years ago when he called, I had to show up here, so thank you.
Thank you.
For always being my boss. My name is Jay Badami. I'm the president and CEO of Tishman Construction. Tishman was a privately held construction company many years ago and started in 1898. Today we are owned by a company called AECom, which is a 100,000 employee firm, largely architectural and engineering. A few months ago they bought URS, so we went from 45,000 to 97,000 people overnight around the world. In addition to AECom acquiring Tishman, they also acquired Hunt Construction, and they do stadiums such as Barclays Center. So Tishman in New York certainly is known for the work that we do at the World Trade Center, all the West Side, certainly all the skyscraper office buildings and high-end luxury rentals and condos.
Not any small companies. Faith Consolo, I'm the chairman of the Retail Leasing, Marketing, and Sales Division at Douglas Elliman Real Estate. We're not such a small company either. 100 offices, 8,000 brokers, we're all over the country. And we do everything to do with real estate. And we formed a global alliance with Knight Frank, so we're all over the world. We're in 37 countries, but we love Greece.
I'm Chuck Olivieri. I think it says Carlos Olivieri, but most people call me Chuck and things that rhyme with it. Senior Vice President of Construction and Development for Edward J. Swift Equities, Inc. We are a relatively large development company, primarily in the city of New York, with some holdings in California. We've dabbled a little bit in Washington and Boston as well. Edward himself has done over 45 million square feet throughout the country in his career. And so I head up construction and development, and we have just finished in the last couple of years a building at 51 Astor Place, about 400,000 square feet of commercial office space, which I'm happy to say is fully leased on the office side. We're starting to wrap up the loose ends on the retail side. Faith didn't help us with that, though, unfortunately. So
Can't make
maybe
every
next time.
deal. I want to make every deal.
Maybe
but
next
I
time.
I didn't get the quality of the truck.
can't. Okay.
So thank you for coming. Lou?
Let's start for the people who are in the audience with a hypothetical project. And let's, only so we can introduce the various roles that people are playing in the process. So let's assume that, that we have a building on Fifth Avenue. Let's assume on the basis of zoning we can build 1 million square feet. Let's assume that we have a retail commercial base. We have potentially rental units. And
Something from a.
maybe some hotel component.
At a low basis.
And a low basis. So there are a lot of different things that obviously take place in the minds of all the participants who are sitting at the table. So Marty, if we can start with you. Let's assume that you're a developer. It's a big project with big money that you have to raise. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so if it's on Fifth Avenue and it's in the 50s, did you say?
Could be anywhere. 50s is good.
Let's pick 50s. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is, you know, the retail value. Clearly, that's probably the most expensive real estate and highest rental rates in the world is on Fifth Avenue in the upper 50s. So for us to make any sense of that, we would have to really leverage up on the retail component and really something that we're doing over at West 61st Street in our site. So we would create we would look to create a box of maybe 3 or 4 levels of retail, which would help subsidize what would be a very expensive price per square foot, probably north of $1,000 a foot on your hypothetical case. It's a big site, obviously, 1 million square feet. I know that's even big, you know, for a big REIT, we wouldn't take on 1 million square feet of rental product there, so we would probably break it up, bring in a condo investor for the top of the building, where they can get, you know, pick a number, 3, 4, 5,000 a foot. And then maybe even a hotel component, because 1 million square feet is still a lot of square footage, and condo developer probably wouldn't be taking all that much, maybe 100,000 or so off the top. So, you know, probably 4 different components there. You'd have retail at the base, rental in the middle, or a hotel on top of the retail, rental, and then condo at the top.
So let's say you hire a Faith. Faith, what are your thoughts on the retail component of this particular building that Marty's developing?
Well, this is Fifth Avenue. There's only one Fifth Avenue. It's the most famous shopping street in the world. It's the most sought-after street. We are in a city with, I hope this year, maybe 58 million tourists. This is a city where brands are made. So the numbers are just the numbers, and you're close on the numbers, and I think they continue to go up. This is one retail corridor that maintains the value even during the downturn. So there's no issue to attract not only retailers that are well capitalized, but you really would almost have a bidding war. And with that type of platform, you could do 1 or 2 retailers, you could have one big specialty store, you could divide up the ground floor, almost like if you visualize what they did at 666 Fifth before, and with the change, and many of the flagships. Fifth Avenue is a flagship location, not just, especially in the 50s, not just flagships, but it's been the place where bigger is better. It's like the Champs-Élysées, it's like Avenue Montaigne. It's really, but the interesting thing is, it's all types of retail. I call it from denim to diamonds. So if it's 3,500 or 4,000 a square foot, that's only based on the ground today. It could be 5,000 by the time the building is finished.
Very good. Chuck, Marty feels that he wants to bring in another partner. Okay, so let's say he brings you into the picture. It's a very large project. It's 1 million square feet. There's a lot of money involved. They prefer to use their money, some of their other money on some other project. You're brought to the table. What is running through your mind now with this particular type of building?
Well, the first thing that runs through my mind, why the hell do we pay so much money for the land? It's way too expensive.
By the way, on the land, what are we talking about now?
In that spot,
Yes,
probably 1,200 bucks a foot.
Easily,
yes.
easily. So, we have a philosophical difference automatically because we don't like hotels. So we would be, our commercial slice of the building would probably be more office than it would be hotel. And again, a little bit philosophical difference. We don't like renting our retail, so we have our commercial tenants in place. Why is that? Because we're concerned that if we bring in a retailer first, we may damage the possibility of getting a bigger office tenant. So the last thing we want to have is, for example, an IBM renting office space, and then we rent stuff to Apple. They may not be happy about that. So we're very careful to make sure that we take care of our commercial tenants first, and then the last thing we rent, as we did at 51 Astor Place, is the retail areas. Same thing at 590 Madison Avenue when we took that over back in the 90s. So our slice will be a commercial office building slice at the bottom. We would love to have the condos on top of the building, and that would help us actually with the financing of the project also.
Jay, you're brought on board as being the best construction manager in the city, even though there's other people in the audience, but he's on the panel, so he's going to sell. Next time you'll be on the panel, you'll be the best construction manager in the city. But you're brought to the table for this particular job. What are your thoughts in terms of what Marty was saying, or what Chuck is saying, because they do come to you and ask your opinion on different things?
Well, but the land cost at $1,200, it leaves me $300 to build the job per square foot, so, 200, thank you, yes. So we have the dynamics of a hotel condo, resi, which is going to be a concrete structure, to where Chuck wants to make it a commercial office building, which will be a steel structure. So there's two different talent sets. So first of all, we would say, do you want AECOM to invest? One good thing about AECOM, we're a $4 billion market cap company, and we invest in multiple.
So you want to get in a deal?
I want to get in as a co-general partner. We're going to put money in the game, so it takes it off the street. Look, anything on a high-end residential of 1 million feet is going to be between Tishman and Lend-Lease. If it's a high-end commercial office building, it's going to be at Tishman and Turner. So the only leverage we have is to enter in to become a partner in the project. With that said, steel is different, concrete is different. We have a lot of work right now. The west side, we're out on the street buying 100,000 tons of steel for related, and so it depends on the market, depends on the timing. But
So what type of building would you push on the basis of the steel concrete scenario that you were?
Well, if it's an office building, it's going to be steel.
Yeah.
If it's a residential, it's going to be concrete. You see Goldstein, Hill, and Weston here, and they would probably like it to be a concrete job. We're looking at several jobs with them. So depending on the mix, depending on the client, certainly office is going to be steel and curtain wall, and on resi it's going to be window wall or hybrid. And the problem is with material, the lead times, steel is coming down, but labor is going up. 1 million feet, I would automatically say it's going to be union. The non-union guys haven't figured that out yet, certainly not for steel. But on concrete, one of these days they're going to figure it out how to do a job that size non-union. Right now, I would say that work is going to be under a PLA union.
Although they're talking about building a 90-story building, non-union, as you know. Yes.
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 Wait a minute.
So one of the things that we have done successfully is in order to get both of 3 different products on the same project, we'll actually start with structural steel on a retail base and convert for residential back to reinforced concrete. We've done it successfully on a couple of projects. That works very, very nicely. And Jay's right about the union versus non-union issue that we're facing today. Is a job of that size, it's going to go union, no question about it. I didn't know you were investing in jobs, so I got to give you a call, Jay.
Thank you. I figured one day he's going to call me.
Faith, you had something to
I call you
say.
many days.
Well, but we talked about, Lou, but
Yes.
we talked about what the price of the retail. I'd like to hear from these gentlemen what they're thinking about in the pricing, say, for the office space. Although I know what it is, maybe want to share with the audience, what would it be?
Chuck?
So what kind, are you talking
Pricing.
pricing
for
of
office.
what we're renting
Yes,
for?
yes.
So at 51 Esther Place, we're achieving rents of close to $100 a square foot for office space. And on the retail, we are out there at between $300 and $400 a square foot in retail.
What would it be in this project?
Well, let me compare this. I think I compared a little bit, and you correct me if I'm wrong. The 57th Street corridor,
Yes.
590 Madison Avenue,
Yes,
close.
yes, very close.
We're looking at numbers of 2,000 a square foot for retail. $2,000 a square foot for retail.
Marty, that sounds good, right? Marty, let me ask you a question.
Afford the land now.
Almost, just almost.
Marty, make
But not a lot of
believe,
retail there.
Marty, make believe that you have to finance this project, not that you work for the company that you work for and they can do it out of their, with their spare change. Let's assume that, it has to be financed. Describe the market currently relating to this type of project and the thought process that you have before you went to Avalon Bay.
Well, that was the beauty of going to Avalon Bay. You know, we would basically go to our MEC, our Management Investment Committee, and if the 6 guys and gals agree it's a good deal, then we call up our finance department, like we did on our last transaction, and they wire $300 million to the seller. And but in a prior life, I spent probably 50% of my time looking at the real estate and also looking at the financing. So, I haven't been involved in one of these in a while, but there's a lot of capital chasing residential, and I'm sure it would require some, probably 25%, if not more, equity. So maybe that's what we would contribute. There's lots of different sources. I know there's different players for the condo piece, more private equity money for condos, and then you can get on for the rental piece, investors like pension funds and life insurance companies and the like.
Thank you. Jay, the developers want to have a feel for the pricing structure for the construction hard costs elements of this particular building. What are your thoughts about that? Obviously, you need a design, but let's talk conceptual now.
We always have to sign on the dotted line before
I give you the number.
before we even know where we're going to go. So, I mean, certainly for a commercial office building, that's structural steel. Let's say it's got a lot of data floors in it, maybe 6. You're probably looking at the low 6s, $600 a foot, maybe in the high 5s without data floors. On a high-end condo rental, probably of that size, you're probably looking, probably trade cost around $475 to $525 plus a certain amount for burdens. So, there's some projects we're looking at that are needles that are $800 a square foot plus burdens. So those are the numbers today, and they're really driven by superstructure concrete and curtain wall, which are really the premium today. Steel is coming down, it's leveled off, so those are the benchmarks for those 2 types.
Thank you. Chuck, on the current financing issues, in terms of underwriting criteria, equity requirements, and perhaps some alternate financing scenarios that are taking place, what are your thoughts on those issues?
So we're seeing equity requirements from some of our lenders running closer to 35% these days. We're seeing, and we use at times mezzanine debt.
What percentage are they talking about these days?
About close to half of the equity for mezzanine debt. But mezzanine debt's very expensive, so you have to be very careful. When we're doing a job like this one on 5th Avenue, we have to be careful what slice we want the mezzanine debt involved with. We prefer to have them involved on the condo side because we can share profits with them to help offset the cost of that money. A great point was made earlier. There's a lot of capital out there chasing product today, a lot of capital. And because of that, the prices for land keep going up. Financing costs, fortunately, are down. We're down to some very low, historically low interest rates. So we're fortunate that we can make this all happen. But as those rates start to creep up, the dynamic is going to change drastically.
What are your thoughts about things like, for example, EB5 funding versus just traditional mezzanine financing?
Well, as you know, we've tried the EB5 funding ourselves with your team, and in fact, we were pre-approved significant amount of money. We just found it difficult to fit it into our capital stack. That was our problem on that particular project. But we think it's something that works. We think it's something that will work well, and then certainly the cost of capital is very enticing.
Faith, let's talk a little bit about about architecture as it relates to to the retail component. And in terms of the retailers, what type of floor-to-floor heights are they thinking of? What type of column spacing are they charting about? What's your thought when you're advising clients about those type of issues?
Well, you have to advise them that you really have to work not only around the developers, but with the developers. If the retailers had it their way, it'd be all glass, there'd be no columns, they'd have no restrictions, but we know that's not realistic. We have all these star architects, we have all these buildings being designed with very elaborate exteriors, and I think the retailers, many of the European retailers, because you know I do a lot of European retailers, they understand this very, very well. They understand landmark buildings, they understand restrictions, much more so because in Europe there's all of these historic buildings. But some of the American retailers, the national retailers, they push back a lot. Yes, of course, everyone wants very high ceilings and unobstructed, but you know what? It's a design challenge, and the retailers today are much more sophisticated. Not all of them are great visionaries, but they have very good staffs, and they're able to be creative. I mean, when you see some of the transformations, even with the icons of the buildings, whether it's Rockefeller Center or even now downtown, the redo down at Brookfield's Place, which opened today, a soft opening, which is just incredible. I mean, it was a very unusual building at its time with the Winter Garden, but now they've opened it up. Retailers want one thing, they want visibility. And at these numbers, at these rents, they want to be sure that their store can be seen. And of course, the owners, the developers, they want to be sure that the retail doesn't cause anything with the integrity of the building, doesn't jeopardize the office tenants upstairs, doesn't jeopardize the residential, because in all of those high-end buildings, and we do a lot of co-op condo buildings, Madison Park, all of these beautiful apartments, they have to fit in to what the building needs. You know what I tell my retailers? I don't care if they're paying $5,000 a foot, $500 a foot. I said, you're a guest in their house. You're doing the lease, and you really have to work within the guidelines, and that's what it is.
I have a question for you.
Yes, of course.
The retail operators, the actual ones who are going to be using the space, how far in advance would they commit to a space that it's to be built? I mean, if we're first closing on a piece of land tomorrow, it's probably, I don't know, 2 years or so, or a year and a half before we even break ground, and then years later before we can deliver the box.
Is this a project on that we were talking about?
He's pre-leasing.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. We're getting advice.
We're going to wire the money tomorrow.
I'm so happy I came.
Aren't you glad you dropped by? No, listen, we're working with retailers. The longest now is mostly 24 months. We used to do 12, we used to do it, it's 24 months. We have national and international retail. When it gets a little beyond that, unless it's a huge project, we did work on one or two over 100,000 feet, and they worked 3 years in advance. So there are those type of retail. They want the position in the marketplace. They know that the opportunity may not reach them again. We tell them this is a very competitive market, great city, you know. You have to be in the right place at the right time. So I think that is moving to a longer period. Now we're going past 21. Just today talked with some people, 27, 28, does that sound too long? No, that's good faith. We're doing some conversions on the Upper East Side, very large complexes, and they're making the commitment now.
Jay, let's because they're conducting their scenario for the next couple of years. Let's talk a little bit about the construction and costs. Okay, you started to talk about costs. Do you see the costs going up, going down, stabilizing? Are there particular trades that are bumping up recently? What are your thoughts on that?
it's really supply and demand. We're seeing probably 5% a year right now. Of course, the downturn of '07, all the contractors reduced their price by 20%. The unions were flat. They were given major concessions then. It's very tough now to get concessions, even though you'll still get project labor agreements. It'll take a couple points off. There's an out-of-borough PLA that'll get you 4 or 5% off the total cost with wages. But virtually the unions have full employment, and the non-union companies have full employment. So the fees that the non-union vendors are getting are probably twice what a union contractor is getting. So you have very few foundation contractors that are capable of doing this work. You have very few superstructure concrete contractors capable of doing a large structure. You have a problem with capacity on curtain wall, where right now if you made an order you couldn't get it until 2017. And with the unions making the agreements with the city on the build-it-back projects and also the Sandy repairs, that's probably $2 billion worth of work that'll be another stretch on all the union trades, which will then mean the non-union trades will have more availability to do market share. What we're seeing right now is a lot more, and I don't call it non-union, I call it open shop, where the union trade contractors are actually doing a lot of the work just because of their capacity, their ability, their quality to work side by side on the non-union side. So what does that mean? The differential of union and non-union is probably still 10 to 15% overall. Probably not going to get, that's just virtue of the unions coming down a little bit, the non-unions going up a lot. But it is supply and demand, so I see a 5% increase per year, probably for the next 2 or 3 years.
Do you see particular trades that are spiking? For example, how is reinforced concrete pricing structures now?
Look, on the job you mentioned, 1 million feet, you'd be paying $85 a foot. I mean, we made a major buy on a project on 42nd Street for $69 a foot. The non-union numbers, apples and apples to that, are probably $53 a foot. So we are trying to work with the unions to have them reduce some of the costs that are really non-productive labor without touching any of the wages, to try to get the union numbers to between 60 and 70. So electrical trade is flat, mechanical, plumbing are basically flat, foundations are done probably union anyway because of the difficulty. Curtain wall is relatively flat. So it's really just superstructure concrete that is really driving the difference of why you see jobs going non-union. Of course, with the cost of money and interest rates going up in June, union contractors are on a 2-day cycle, the non-union contractors are on a 7-day cycle. So as the cost of the money increases, there'll be more benefit to go back to the union model as opposed to the non-union model.
Are there particular factors that are affecting the general conditions in the marketplace, or is that basically also flat?
General conditions, still the union trades have to be higher because the agreements with 79, which are laborers, 282, which are Teamsters, 14 and 15, which are the hoists. So there's still probably a 20% delta where union construction or general conditions is more than non-union. So you have superstructure concrete numbers and the general conditions numbers, but overall, if you look at the bottom line, union and non-union, probably 10 to 15% delta.
At one point, there was, as you know, about 25% differential, but as you're saying, it's coming a lot closer with the non-union contractors actually being quite busy. Marty, you're the developer with Chuck. Let's talk a little bit about architecture and your thoughts on the hiring of consultants. Obviously, you need someone to start putting together the zoning and things of that nature, start looking at a project. What are the thoughts that are going through your mind with that?
Okay, I know I'm going to offend somebody in the audience here. You really want to name names on architects?
No. You don't have to name names, but the type of people.
I'll do that for you.
After you finish, by the way, Chuck is going to do this.
I'll be the offensive one.
Well, generally, whenever we're looking at a site, the first thing we're looking at is the zoning, right? And it starts with a massing study, and you want someone who really understands the nuances of the zoning. And there's a handful of people that are really, really good at it. One I see in the audience already as I look around. David West is just terrific at it. There's a couple of others, but so it really starts with that. And like everyone knows, the city, every site in the city is pre-zoned, so you pretty much kind of stuck with the envelope of the building. And then it's a matter of finding, the right architect who's going to basically, dress it up and make it look like a, world-class building. So there's not usually a lot of flexibility on the actual configuration of the building. Usually there's a street wall requirement, there's setbacks that are required. Sometimes you have sky exposure planes that you have to respect, and maybe even some height restrictions. So it's really, you kind of, like I said before, really kind of stuck with the absolute structure of the building.
Faith mentioned the Starchitects. Do we get a Starchitect on this job? What do we do?
Sure, it can't hurt. No, I think
The flavor of the month, whichever
right.
it
I mean,
is.
for a high-end condo, that's been the trend for a while now, and we probably would, layer on an architect, perhaps, but maybe have an executive architect for the whole project, an architect of record. Maybe we get a specialty architect for the retail space. And certainly for interior design, you'd want another architect, especially if it's a hotel component. So there's a lot of room for various architects in this project.
So, an interesting dynamic that the panelists have brought up, and Lou has, which we've looked and in fact participated in, is the concept of getting a world-renowned architect to be your designer and have a local architect be the executive architect that will prepare the construction documents in the city of New York and do the filing for those documents in the city of New York. We used Maki out of Japan to design 51 Astor Place, and Adamson was the executive architect. We're embarking on a smaller project with a British architect, and they will be using Montroyanus and DeMarco as the executive architect in New York. But we're seeing, in general, more and more of the world-renowned architects coming into the city, lending their name to the project to give it an international flavor for the international buyers. There's this recognition of a British architect, a Swiss architect, a German architect, a Japanese architect, whatever nationality it is that has a major architectural firm with a big name, teaming up with a local architect to create a very special product, whether it's a residential product, a hotel product, a commercial product, as we did, a retail product that maybe there's a project that's being led by a retail component. And we're seeing a lot of that in the city, more so today than ever before, I think. And the thought being that we can get a special product that can then sell for a lot more than we would have otherwise been able to sell the product for.
Marty, let's talk a little bit about marketing. Okay, and just a little market overview, absorption rates and things of that nature. Obviously, you're involved in a lot of rental product. There's tens of thousands of units that are being built throughout the city, including in Brooklyn, I think, where you're doing a project. What are your thoughts? What is the latest trends with regards to just the thought process?
Yeah, it's a little scary. It's right now. I would say it's the most difficult time that I've seen to be able to find a site and make sense of it as a rental product, right? As a rental development. But having said that, we track all the developments that are in the pipeline. Or we think we track all of them. And we see about 40,000 rental units coming online over the next 4 to 5 years.
And where are they, Marty?
And that's between just Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan. I think 15,000 alone in Manhattan, and then roughly the same in Queens and Brooklyn. So, the question is, will that get absorbed? I mean, it seems like it should be. There's job growth, which is really the #1 driver of apartment absorption. I think there's trends in the market that are fundamental changes in the way younger generation from 25 to 35 in their lifestyles. They are waiting longer to get married, waiting longer to have children. They need more flexibility with respect to their job or careers, which means they may need to move. And then I think there's a general disenchantment of the younger generation, again, 25 to 35, which usually makes up the biggest component of the rental market. about home ownership. So all those things lead to that cohort of staying longer in apartments. So it's a good thing for New York and good thing for internationally for apartments.
What do you think about about the high-end condos? And is there an unlimited number of people who are going to pay certain types of prices? Is there a thought process on that?
There is not an unlimited number. Yeah, I mean, you know, we don't live in that world on high-end condos. There's been some, so far, the Billionaires Row has been doing pretty well. Hard to say, I'm not that close to it, but from what I'm hearing is that, sales have been good, it's been diverse. I know the market in general for condos has been pretty strong, although at the end of the fourth quarter, I think inventory creeped up a little bit, but prices have still increased as well year over year. So it'll be interesting. The 40,000 units I talked about, that was strictly rental. That didn't even include condo components. So it'll be an interesting time, but for as long as New York is the place where young kids want to come and it's an international city and there's job growth, we should be able to maintain the pace.
Jay, your organization does many, many building types. We've talked about residential condos. We didn't really discuss hotels at all. We didn't really discuss commercial buildings except the retail components. Tell us what's happening in the marketplace because you're there. I mean, you're hired for all types of stuff. If you can just give us a feel for the building types, what's happening, what people are interested in, if you can share that.
We're very fortunate. We are doing 4 major office buildings right now. Tower 3 at the World Trade Center. We successfully completed Tower 4, which was Maki also. Had a very good experience with them. 1 Vanderbilt, we are starting demo on the Vanderbilt corridor from 42nd to 43rd, Vanderbilt to Madison. So that's one little niche of work. That building, in addition to the improvements that have to be done at Grand Central, is very good work for us. It's a high-rise commercial office building. We are the construction manager for Hudson Yards for Tower A, which will be Time Warner and CNN. Brookfield Manhattan West, we're negotiating a contract with Brookfield for that property. 425 Park Avenue, 380 Madison. So we're blessed to have probably $7 billion worth of construction in the commercial office building space. On the residential side, we're under construction right now, actually currently with 10 residential and condo projects from 40 to 60 stories, including 99 Church downtown, which is a combination condo and Four Seasons product. So that's been certainly keeping us busy in that high-end resi market. At Forest City Ratner in Atlantic Yards, we're the construction manager for the affordable housing component of those properties. There are 2 buildings, 350 units each, and their intent is to have a groundbreaking for a total of 14 buildings. Greenland is 70% partner there. They invested almost $700 million, so that's keeping us going in the boroughs. We've also been awarded the construction management assignment at LaGuardia Airport, which is a 9-year assignment to oversee all the construction that's going to happen there. And also because we know that one of these days the music is going to stop and the baby boomers are going to stop residing and stop doing all this high-end work that we see going ahead of us. We're negotiating with the city to do the Build It Back program in the Rockaways to rebuild 2,200 single-family homes that got destroyed by Hurricane Sandy. So this is the work that has typically not been in Tishman's wheelhouse, but the city came out with an RFP to design build, and now that I have the ability to go to AECOM URS, who could be my designers, and Tishman would manage the construction, it's just doing things that we typically haven't done, which is wood framing and elevating homes and getting those people back in their homes that have been displaced for 2.5 years. So we constantly have to change like a chameleon. We have to diversify to stay in business. In our business, since we're publicly traded, we have to grow or die. So the only thing we can do is invest in deals that we normally wouldn't have done and do construction that we normally wouldn't have done.
Thank you. Faith, share with us some of the exciting retail things that are happening right now?
Well, there's so many wonderful retail things. I
Okay,
think that-
you don't have to talk about all of them, but.
No, I'll just say, last year and coming into this year, I can tell you this is I think the decade of the department store. We've had, for the first time in New York City, 5 and now maybe moving to 7 new department stores, Neiman Marcus at Hudson Yard, 2 Saks Fifth Avenue downtown, 2 department stores negotiating in Harlem head-to-head, Lord & Taylor and Macy's. One will prevail, I believe. And I think discount as well. And I think that we're seeing Nordstrom. I'm sorry, I don't know how I could forget that because we've waited 10 years to have Nordstrom on 57th Street. But more expansion, and I think that shows a confidence in the city. Besides all of the other retail deals, we had incredible numbers of transactions. But the interesting thing is that there are deals from very small stores, everything, on almost every neighborhood. And going in, we do the 5 boroughs as well. Brooklyn is off the charts. The rates are head-to-head with Manhattan. I mean, almost every area, not just Soho and Meatpacking and Chelsea and Madison, but Upper East, Upper West. And we're seeing growth all the way up in Morningside Heights, new stores around Columbia. Harlem, which you know, we had the largest portfolio, 150 stores, everything getting leased. I think there's such a confidence in the city, and I think it's all types of deals, or from a niche retailer, and I don't use mom and pop, I use the smaller retailer, because everybody talks about the mom and pop stores being displaced, but those are service, and we're able to move them off the avenue to the side street. But every neighborhood, and then you'll say, some of my maybe co-panelists will say, oh, Faith, I walk up 3rd Avenue, I see vacant stores on Madison. Well, that's the market. Behind every vacancy, there's a story. Either they're holding it vacant for a reason, maybe they're doing a development, maybe we have some groups that have really assembled at a very high number and they're waiting to get their number, but there's lots and lots of growth. And that is driven not just by the tourists, but by the residential market. The residential market's incredible. I mean,
Thank you.
That's it.
Speaking about the residential markets, Chuck, the last major building was obviously a commercial building. You are looking at different opportunities and possibilities in terms of residential buildings. What are your thoughts about that particular market from your perspective?
Never use Tishman. No.
He puts these hard.
No. We love Tishman, all kidding aside. We are primarily commercial office building developers. But having said that, we were very successful in Tribeca building what we call 270 Greenwich Street, which was a mixed-use building that has Whole Foods in it, and the ground floor Bed Bath & Beyond, Barnes & Noble, and a few other retailers. Some small bank called Bank of America, I think, is in that place also, if I recall correctly. And then on top of that, we had a rental component at 89 Murray Street, sitting on top of the retail, and then the tower at 101 and 99 Warren Street, which is all condos. It was a very, very successful project for us, and it kind of whet our appetite for some additional residential work. We're currently in the middle of working on an 8-unit, very, very high-end condominium on 12th Street, which we have been led to believe is one of the hot areas in town. And we have purchased some land on Jane Street, which will be the next little high-end condo that we will be building. So we're kind of, we're high on the expectations of being successful with these 2 smaller condos that we're doing, and we like the mixed use. We're kind of happy about that, but in spite of that, we still have the commercial office building blood in us, and so we're always looking for that major tenant and piece of land to put the tenant and the land and ourselves together to get something built.
Professor Oliveri, and speaking about Harlem, since Harlem was mentioned, tomorrow there's going to be at Columbia's graduate school, the China Business Conference, which is supposed to be the largest annual business conference, which is the largest business conference in the Western Hemisphere on a yearly basis. And there will be a real estate panel that I will be on, but the title of the real estate is something like the tidal wave of Chinese investment. What are your thoughts about the tidal wave of Chinese investments in New York?
Pick up a copy of The Real Deal, they'll give you the whole story, which is the current position. They'll answer it better than I can. They're here, they have capital, they have intelligence, they know what they're doing, they know what they want to buy, they know how they want to buy it, they know what they want to do with it after they buy it. We would be delighted to participate with them in deals that they're going to be getting involved in.
Faith, on the retail side, are you seeing this type of investments by the Chinese?
Yes, there's a lot of, but not just the Chinese. We've been doing a lot of, well, first it was the Japanese, then it was the Koreans, now it's the Chinese. It changes all the time, but yes, there is still tremendous investment from Asia. A lot of their retail, they have really big conglomerates. We did a group from Korea that have 44 retail divisions. They have the equivalent of like Crate and Barrel and H&M and Abercrombie. So they have all of these different, types of divisions. But it's just, it was Germans, then it's Italians, then it's French. It just depends on who's trading the money. But they all see New York in both the residential, like, money, mansions. It's like safety deposit box.
Right.
All of the real estate in New York is like having one big safety. So we'll take anyone's money. I mean, we'll take China, we'll take whatever. But you know what? It makes for a very, very interesting dynamic. Lou, I don't want to interrupt you as a moderator, but I do a lot of moderating.
No,
I love, yes, okay, I can't help myself.
Go ahead, take over.
Okay, thank you. If we could have the panelists talk about, because I would like to be educated, because I really don't know everything. Anyway, if they could talk about the hotels and hotels and the building of hotels, or where you see the hotel market, because we see so many hotels. And are we getting a hotel maybe across from Madison where we look out south and what's his name, Chatreet's building and that? Are they going to do a hotel? That's the rumor. Hotels? Who wants to talk about hotels?
Jay will talk about hotels,
No?
and then I'll talk about hotels. I'm building one myself.
All right. I'd like to hear. We have so many flags. Who wants
Jay,
to-
go ahead, go
Here
do
you
it.
go, Jay.
She's taking
You
over,
built
man.
a
Watch
few
out.
hotels,
I've
didn't
stayed
you?
in a hotel
I heard that.
that owns hotels. They own the Westin at Times Square, the Intercon. Tishman Construction would always build those for them. We're currently building the Four Seasons. We're looking at a deal where David West is designing with Chinese investors coming in. It's potentially going to be a Conrad. Of course, Conrad is downtown. They want to come up to Midtown. All the hotel brands want to have a hotel downtown and also Midtown. And that's kind of what the flavor of the month is. Construction-wise, we see Midtown rezoning, which is something that was killed last year. And with the Vanderbilt corridor being the first generation of what's going to happen along Grand Central, if that gets passed, we see there's a lot of avenues in that 70 block area to have additional hotels. The challenge is going to be if they build a hotel, do they have to use 32BJ? Do they have to use union labor? A lot of things are going to be coming up. It was killed under the last administration. Not sure where this administration stands, whether it's still effective to build ground up in that area with the high real estate and the cost of land. So hotels are, you see them popping up all over the place, the little Holiday Inn Expresses, the Marriotts, little 20, 30 stories that are all on the side streets. So right now I still see hotels. I think probably the West Side is going to be the next place where you're going to see hotels, because that's really where the world is going, whether it's related, whether it's Brookfield. We certainly now have transportation. It's going to go over there. So the next generation around Javits is certainly going to be hotels, hotels, hotels.
Yeah, as it relates to hotels, there's a tremendous amount of product that's being built right now. New York, besides the construction industry and the $36 billion and all that, is one of the prime areas of tourism. We are averaging, and this doesn't include, by the way, Americans, we are averaging about 55 million tourists that come into New York City every year. And the reality is we do have a lot of hotel rooms, but really not enough, and not a mixture of different types of products. And in terms of the construction, a lot of the hotels are actually being built by non-union contractors, because a lot of them are in fact smaller, a lot of them are not five-star, you know, major super hotels, etc. I am building a hotel on 42nd Street and 9th Avenue. It's a different type of hotel. It's it's what we call a pod hotel. They have small rooms, 120, 130 square foot per key. So we're talking about small rooms, 665 in that particular case, 45 residential units on top. And I see a tremendous strength, by the way, and questioning about people wanting to come here to build hotels. If you don't have a hotel in New York, okay, in your portfolio of projects, you're not there. So there are, in fact, hotels from both in Europe, both in the East, etc., looking right now, okay, for properties. Actually, I'm not going to mention names because I see some people in the audience who are actually looking for particular properties for hotels to be built. But hotels is something that is on the expansionary mode. And again, the residential, the tourism thing is a very big part of it. In terms of the money that we were talking about earlier, one of the things is the more dangerous the world is, the crazier the world is, the more money comes into New York. Speaking on that topic, we all of us, and in particular myself and yourself sitting there, have been through many development cycles. Okay, right now we're in a boom type situation, but we've all been at the bottom many times. We've all been in 2008, for example, where we have different issues. So with the closing statements, if you can, starting with Marty, give me your thoughts on the current market cycle, where we are, where we think we're going to be. I'm not going to go into the future too much, let's say in the next couple of years.
Well, it's a big crystal ball, obviously, but what I think we've realized over the years is that New York tends to rebound, tends to go into a recession or have the market dip later than the rest of the country, and it tends to rebound the fastest. So it seems like the window of trouble tends to be smaller and smaller over the years, which is a great thing for New York, obviously. From a rental perspective, we're still 2% vacancy. There's still a lot of demand. I talked about the 40,000 units that are coming online. I think that will continue. Obviously, if there's a hiccup of some sort of banking crisis down the road, it'll be a question of ironically, the ones that have started the projects, right, who will probably be in the best position, right, because they could probably renegotiate the construction contracts, and then they'll be the first one out of the gate delivering product when the recession's over. The ones that, the groups, the developers that buy land right beforehand and didn't get into the ground are the ones that are going to suffer. But but if they have staying power, they'll be ready for the next cycle. So, as developers, I think we need to be optimistic, and I think there's good reason to be so.
Thank you, Jay.
We recently finished the Baccarat Hotel at 53rd and 5th. It was a venture of Tribeca Associates and Starwood, which is Barry Sterling. So those hotel rooms sold for $2 million a key. So I think the foreign investors want to get here quick. They don't want to wait to start at the ground and go up. So I think that's fueling the market. So I have met with several, certainly Chinese and Japanese developers. The Japanese want to come back into town. They were here in the 80s when the world was really relatively safe. Now that there's a lot of unrest around the world, people want to be here in New York as the haven. So this is the place to be. That is really fueling the market right now, certainly for the next 4 or 5 years.
Thank you, Faith.
Well, I agree with all that, but I can say, well, you can't be a broker and not be an ultimate optimist, and also crazy. We really walk on the edge. But I can tell you that from a retail point of view, even during the downturn, we did dozens of transactions because the retailers that were well capitalized were able to get very good deals, and they positioned themselves when the market went back up. And I think that there will always be that. If they're going to make a decision to have a retail store in New York or in Iowa, I guess they're going to have it in New York, because it is the shopping capital, and because we've seen this, and you know I do shopping centers too, that one store in New York can do more than 20 suburban stores or 10 mall stores. I don't care what mall it is. I don't care if it's Bal Harbour or South Coast. It just doesn't happen. So I think even during the downturns, we've had a very spirited market. The retailers may have changed. They may have been less luxury. Maybe it's cheap, chic, fast fashion. But there's always a place. This is New York City. Everybody wants to come here. Even after 9/11, they felt unsafe. But I can tell you, 2 days after 9/11, I live uptown on Fifth Avenue, Barney's was open, the stores were open, and people were back trying to, yes, we're the last city to fall off and the first to come back. So I'm just very happy that I live here, work here, shop here, dine here. I think it's the greatest city, and I think we're very fortunate. I do work all over the country, and nothing is like New York. Even if, when it's bad, it's good. When it's good, it's great.
Thank you, Fran. Chuck?
I love that.
Okay.
I hope you got all that when you
Don't worry, you're going to give me the job at the real estate board.
Amen.
Okay.
So that's it. Great job. So we are, our crystal ball is telling us that there's a significant demand for commercial office space. There are some large users out there looking for a place to have their new home. Nobody's publicizing it. There are a lot of the hedge funds out there who are growing exponentially. They will go on least one floor, and 3 months they come back and say, we need 2 more floors. So we try to anticipate that in our planning. And about 2 years ago I said this bubble's going to burst, and I think that by 2015 we're going to slow it down. Boy, was I wrong. Now I'm thinking maybe the end of 2016 into 17 will slow down. I'm going to be wrong again, okay? And hopefully I can be wrong for the next 3 or 4 years of my life, all right, and then finally retire. If I'm going to do that, I'm not sure I'm going to do that. But anyway, the one thing that is certain, and we should never forget this, is that it's cyclical. The cycle will end at some point. The good news about New York, and Marty said it the best, we're the last into it and we're the first out of it. So we have a very short window of the impact on real estate in New York City. The other thing that works for New York City very well is certain areas get hot, and when that area gets saturated, another area gets hot. So we see the meatpacking areas getting hot, Soho gets hot, then Midtown gets hot again. Jay's going to make the Grand Central Market area hot again, and so on. So these are things that we're blessed with in the city, that we have different areas. Just in Manhattan, I'm talking about. Forget about the outer boroughs, which has its own dynamic going on in Brooklyn and in Queens. Even in the Bronx, there's a dynamic going on there as well. So we're blessed to have a lot of diversity going on in the marketplace for the product type that we're getting out there, for the investors who want to come into this particular market and work with us to create their product and their vision in the city. So I'm very bullish on it, as Edward is, on things staying very, very good for the next few years, certainly. But we all understand that at some point, this bubble has to, maybe not burst, but maybe just leak a little bit. Okay?
A round of applause for our panel.
MGTV USA. Οι δραστηριότητες της ελληνοαμερικανικής κοινότητας με βίντεο και πλήρες ρεπορτάζ. Επισκεφτείτε την ιστοσελίδα μας mgtvusa.com. Καλύπτουμε καθημερινά τα γεγονότα στην Ομογένεια.